Welcome to the party.
The hegemony of rational worlds had spent approximately 14,000 years perfecting the art of being insufferably predictable. Every decision, from trade negotiations to breakfast choices, flowed through their probability courts. Massive quantum computers that could calculate the outcome of any scenario with what they smugly called mathematical certainty. Wars lasted exactly as long as the equations predicted. Rebellions failed precisely when the algorithms said they would. Even their poetry followed statistical patterns, which explains why nobody outside the hegemony bothered reading it. This obsession with predictability had served them well. 947 species had joined their galactic bureaucracy, each one cataloged, analyzed, and filed into neat behavioral categories. The Zephyrians always chose profit over principle. The Corvin Empire inevitably resorted to honor duels when negotiations stalled. The ethereal collective would meditate for exactly 72 hours before making any major decision. Boring, absolutely. Efficient, undeniably. Then humanity showed up and broke their computers. Counselor Vexthara clicked her mandibles in frustration as she reviewed the latest reports from the probability courts. Her species, the Nexari, prided themselves on logical thinking. Their brains literally couldn't process illogical concepts without experiencing the equivalent of a migraine. Right now, she felt like someone was driving nails through her compound eyes. The humans have been classified as a Class 7 statistical anomaly, she announced to the assembled council. Their behavior patterns defy every model we've created. They simultaneously display pack loyalty and fierce individualism. They make decisions based on something called gut feelings that somehow prove more accurate than our calculations. Yesterday, one of their leaders made a crucial economic decision by flipping a metal disc into the air. Admiral Karath, whose people had conquered half their home galaxy through sheer stubbornness, slammed a massive fist on the crystalline table. Then we crushed them. Simple solution to a simple problem. Nothing about humans is simple, Vexthara replied, pulling up holographic data streams. Our war simulations have run continuously for 6 months. The results vary wildly depending on variables we can't quantify. They call it human spirit, or dumb luck, or because screw you, that's why. Our computers have started requesting therapy. The council chamber fell silent, except for the gentle humming of probability processors working overtime. These beings had built their entire civilization on the comforting certainty that everything could be predicted, controlled, and filed in triplicate. The idea that a single species could introduce genuine chaos into their orderly universe was more terrifying than any weapon. Counselor Zeketh, representing the synthetic collective, projected his concerns through harmonic frequencies that translated roughly to, "Perhaps we should study them further?" "We've been studying them for 3 years, Vexthara snapped. "They've noticed. Instead of hiding their activities or attempting to deceive our surveillance, they've started deliberately acting more unpredictable. One of their military commanders spent an entire week making strategic decisions by asking his pet mammal to choose between colored objects. His success rate improved by 30%. The mathematical impossibility of it all made several council members physically uncomfortable. Their entire governmental system relied on being able to predict outcomes, manage risks, and maintain order through superior planning. Humans seem to achieve better results through what their files diplomatically termed organized chaos and strategic stupidity. Admiral Karath's patience, which operated on a precisely calculated timeline, reached its predetermined limit. "Enough. We issue the standard ultimatum. Join the hegemony's organizational structure or face annihilation. Our combined fleets number in the millions. Earth has barely achieved interplanetary travel. The mathematics are simple." "Are they?" Vexthara pulled up the latest projections. "Our computers give Earth a 0.0% chance of survival in direct military confrontation. But they also gave humanity a 0.003% chance of developing faster than light travel within their technological time frame. And yet here we are, having this conversation because they somehow managed to do exactly that, using principles our physicists are still trying to understand." The council voted anyway, because bureaucracies must bureaucrat even when facing the impossible. The ultimatum was drafted in the traditional format: surrender within 30 standard days or face the full might of the hegemony's military forces. Simple, direct, and backed by overwhelming mathematical certainty. The message reached Earth on a Tuesday, which would later prove significant in ways the probability courts never saw coming. President Elena Vasquez read the ultimatum twice, handed it to General Marcus Blackwood, and waited for his reaction. Blackwood, a man whose strategic mind had been forged in conflicts across 3-star systems, studied the numbers with professional interest. "Well," he said finally, "they're not wrong about the odds." "No," Vasquez agreed, "they're not, which is exactly why they'll never see this coming." What humanity did next would later be studied in xenopsychology courses as either the most brilliant diplomatic maneuver in galactic history or the most spectacular case of species-wide insanity ever documented. The probability courts, still struggling to process human behavioral patterns, registered the response and immediately crashed. Earth's official reply to the hegemony's ultimatum consisted of 17 words that would reshape galactic politics forever. "Thanks for the invitation to surrender. We decline. Instead, would you like to attend our party?" The word party did not exist in the hegemony's diplomatic database. Their translation algorithms spent 47 minutes cross-referencing human cultural archives before settling on ritualistic gathering for unknown strategic purposes, which completely missed the point, but at least prevented their computers from having another existential crisis. What happened next violated approximately 16 different protocols for interspecies conflict resolution. Instead of mobilizing their pathetic excuse for a military, humans began what their broadcasts cheerfully described as the biggest cultural exchange festival in galactic history. Every species within communication range received personalized invitations promising authentic human experiences and surprises you'll never see coming. Vexthara watched in growing horror as her carefully orchestrated intimidation campaign transformed into something resembling a cosmic block party. Humans weren't building weapons or fortifying positions. They were constructing what appeared to be entertainment venues, food preparation facilities, and something called escape rooms that their files suggested were voluntary imprisonment experiences designed for enjoyment. "Their advertising," Admiral Korath reported, his voice carrying the bewildered tone of a predator discovering its prey had started a cooking show. "Across 17 different communication networks, they're promising to teach other species how to think outside the box and embrace beautiful chaos. 300 species have already requested attendance permits." The probability courts had given up trying to model this scenario. Their latest projections simply displayed a rotating symbol that roughly translated to mathematical confusion, accompanied by what sounded suspiciously like electronic sobbing. But the true nightmare began when member species of the hegemony started asking questions. The Zephyrian Trade Collective, whose behavior had been perfectly predictable for 6,000 years, suddenly wanted to know why profit calculations couldn't include fun quotients. The ethereal collective abandoned their traditional 72-hour meditation period to spend time researching human concepts like spontaneity and winging it. "They're becoming infected," Counselor Zaketh harmonized, his synthetic consciousness struggling to process the implications. "Human behavioral patterns are spreading through our communication networks like a virus. The Corvin Empire just declared a casual Friday, and nobody knows what it means." Vexthara's mandibles clicked rapidly as she reviewed reports flooding in from across the galaxy. Species that had followed rigid social protocols for millennia were suddenly experimenting with something humans called improvisation. The hegemony's carefully maintained order was developing cracks, and through those cracks, chaos was seeping in like water through a failing dam. The breaking point came when the first hegemony ships actually arrived at Earth's solar system. Instead of cowering behind defensive positions, humans had constructed what appeared to be a massive welcome center in orbital space. Bright lights spelled out "Welcome to Earth" in 47 different languages, including several the humans shouldn't have known existed. "Admiral," reported Captain Thexara from the flagship, "they're broadcasting music at us. Our analysis suggests it serves no tactical purpose, but crew morale has inexplicably improved by 12%. Also, they're asking if we have any dietary restrictions. Admiral Karath stared at his tactical displays, which showed human ships approaching not in battle formations, but in what appeared to be parade configurations. Several were trailing colorful banners that read, "Surprise and expect the unexpected." His warriors, bred for conquest and trained for glory, were receiving recipe exchanges and invitations to something called a potluck dinner. The final straw came when Vexithera realized what the humans had actually done. This wasn't military strategy or diplomatic maneuvering. It was cultural warfare at its most terrifying. By refusing to be predictable, humans weren't just defending themselves. They were attacking the very foundation of hegemony civilization. "They're not trying to defeat us," she whispered, her compound eyes reflecting the chaos spreading across her data streams. "They're trying to make us like them." The reports kept coming. Hegemony citizens were abandoning their assigned roles to pursue something called personal fulfillment. Scientists were conducting experiments based on hunches rather than peer-reviewed methodologies. Even worse, some of these intuitive approaches were producing better results than traditional research methods. The probability courts, pushed beyond their operational limits, finally issued their last coherent projection: human victory probability, undefined. Warning: mathematics may be insufficient to predict outcomes involving species that consider, because it seemed fun, a valid strategic doctrine. Counselor Zaketh's harmonic emissions reach frequencies previously thought impossible for synthetic beings. They've weaponized unpredictability itself. Our entire civilization is based on knowing what comes next. If our citizens start believing that uncertainty can be enjoyable rather than terrifying, our governmental structure becomes obsolete. Admiral Korath, whose people had conquered worlds through superior planning and overwhelming force, found himself staring at tactical scenarios that included variables like spontaneous dance parties and surprise friendship declarations. His military computers kept suggesting retreat protocols, not because humans posed a physical threat, but because prolonged exposure to human culture might cause his crews to start thinking creatively. The galaxy's most powerful civilization, built on 14,000 years of mathematical certainty and bureaucratic efficiency, faced its greatest existential threat: the possibility that life might be more interesting when you couldn't predict what happened next. And the most terrifying part was that some of their own citizens were starting to agree. As Vexthera watched her orderly universe dissolve into glorious, unpredictable chaos, she realized that humans had achieved something no military force could accomplish. They had made the hegemony question whether being perfectly predictable was actually worth the cost. The surrender ultimatum remained unanswered, but somehow that no longer seemed like the important question.